Okay. So, we're up to Mishnah Beis. I think we covered Mishnah B'Malon, basically. Mishnah Beis, so what do we look for? Right? Well, what do we look for? Well, obviously it's going to start at May Messiah, right? Doing the Shema B'Shachris.
Let me just ask you a quick question once we're on to Beis.
Yeah.
Is it imperative that you keep in mind the order of the Mishnayos, or we just have to keep the breakdown of halachas in mind?
The sequence of Mishnayos?
Sequence of Mishnayos.
Yeah, well...
Because the Rebbe has it on the chart. It's really according to the halachas, not according to the Mishnayos. We just plug in as we go.
The goal is to create the entire structure of Brochos, and then to link each halacha in a Mishnah where in the structure it is.
I understand, but then the order of Mishnayos, you may get so caught up in the hierarchy that the actual order of Mishnayos might get lost, become fuzzy, because you're not focusing on that anymore.
No. It's not a matter if you focus, it's just when you focus. No, eventually you will do that. Like we decided that the central idea of the first Mishnah was what? Right?
Mm-hmm.
It was evening Shema, right? Evening, Kriya Shema, evening. When? The beginning of that. Beginning of evening time period. You know what I'm saying? So as you go on, look, the key of each Mishnah in the end, if you think about it, is the central idea.
But it doesn't necessarily go into the sequence that you have it on.
No, because Rebbe's sequence is whatever he decided. It's not he's many masechtas.
But you'll still, when you come back to it, at least you'll know where it fits in the structure.
Well, that's why you need to link this to that, and not vice versa, because that is conceptually structured. Exactly. This is a structure. It's based on however Rebbe felt that he wanted to sequence the halachas, which is not. Listen, many masechtas start from the end. Maybe get Mendel Kessin.
Shabbos.
Yeah, Shabbos. Okay, it's yeah. And so on. No, that doesn't bother me. You just even though Hitzor is the last malacha, that's what you're saying. But I don't care. At least it's time for the malachas. But let's say maybe get. What's a get? When, where, how, what, and so on. And all of a sudden the issue is, well, if somebody brings a get from Dinas Yam, I'm supposed to say something like that. We're like, how in the world? This is like the end of the ideas of get, not the beginning. Anyway, so okay. Oh, okay, good. So we're up to Mishnah Beis. Who wants to say Mishnah Beis?
Okay. Memasai. We're starting with the statements.
Yeah.
So Memasai Kohen Shema B'Shachris. First statement. From when?
Yeah.
Do we say Shema in the morning Shema?
Yeah.
When does the time period start?
Yes. So that Mishnah, that idea clearly introduces what seems to be the central idea.
Yeah.
So the central idea seems to be what? Morning Shema. Morning Kriya Shema.
Beginning time.
Beginning time period of the morning Shema. So we expect it to have the beginning and the end, just like the first Mishnah had.
Yeah.
So already you have a balance here. We dealt with the evening, now we dealt with the morning, the same issues.
Right.
What's the issue? What's the category? Remember the overall category? Time. When? That's the category we're dealing with in Shema. When is this said?
Right.
Okay, so the Mishnah answers...
Mishiyakir ben Techeles lelavan. So that's the second statement. And it says that once you could differentiate between blue and white in the morning, that's the time to start saying Shema.
Yeah, so what is that? So
the beginning of the time period.
The beginning of the time period is when you can differentiate between two colors. Now, it could be the two kinds of thing. It could be the two colors in tzitzis, because you have tcheles, you have love and you have the white tzitzis.
Correct.
And you have the blue-green, tcheles is blue-green, whatever, tzitzis, right? So when you can differentiate the two, that's when you can begin to say Kriyat Shema. Or it could be just a patch. I think there's another way. There's just a patch of cloth that hasn't taken the dye totally, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's a beginning,
Right.
right? Okay,
So
but if you think about that, what seems to be going on here in this? Like, what's the determinant or the principle of Tchilas Lovan? Well, we're going to have here
Light.
Rabbi Eliezer,
Light.
man. What?
Fundamental available light.
Available light? Well, it's available. What do you mean
Light.
available?
Light. I mean, how light is
Amount-
it?
amount
The
of
light,
light.
right.
What about the amount of light?
The minimum.
Yeah. The amount of light, but
Ufkumecha. I'm saying we eventually we're going to get to
the
Ufkumecha.
pasuk is probably what? Ufkumecha, right?
Right.
You're rising. You know what I'm saying? So, tie it. We once spoke about that. Tie it. What does available light or whatever light have to do with getting up?
How light does it have to be before people get up?
Correct.
Light is what causes people to get up. Saying,
What do you need light for?
Daily activities.
Who?
Daily activities.
Very good. Function. People get up when you can function. You can't function if it's pitch black.
I'm not talking about our generation.
Who? Yeah, because
We don't go to sleep.
nobody goes to sleep. I mean, if you go to Columbus Circle in New York, Manhattan, at 3 a.m., it looks like it's as busy at 12 o'clock, which is
In BMG.
that's because we have light. You say?
So in BMG too.
Two extremes.
I'm doing that 3 o'clock in the
Outdoors.
morning.
But 3 p.m. it's not so busy.
Yeah. But what really determines this? What does light have to do with getting up? And the answer is because you need light to function, to do your daily tasks, whatever you want to do. So therefore, what's the question here? Right? So we've made a connection here between what? Between light
Function.
and functioning.
Right.
So people get up when they can function.
Right.
They don't get up if they can't. They might as well go to sleep. Especially in those days, it was all agriculture. So you got up with the sun, because what are you going to do? You can't do anything at night. So you had to wait till sunrise, right? And then you could be able to function and so on,
I thought that the
So
sun
what
wakes
is
up people.
What was that?
I thought the sun wakes up people.
No. Alarm clocks is what it
Look.
is.
You ever tried it?
The Tarnagal.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the rooster, yes.
Do you have
Ball
difficulty
weeks.
sleeping on Shabbos afternoon?
Yes. Because of getting up?
Not because of the light.
It's light.
Oh. But anyway, yeah. So okay. So now Rebbe Eliezer says, "V'itchenes the kanti," which is blue, green, and green. Kanti is supposed to be leeks, some type of vegetable, I think, and it's green. So between blue, green, and green. So who's the machmir and who's the mekel?
So those will be the machmir.
Rebbe Eliezer will be the machmir.
Because he's a later time.
He's a later time, yeah. So that's interesting, Like what it, that's interesting. So what we see therefore is people.
And stone. Like in that-
Kriyashma begins when people get up. 1. 2. When does a person get up? Right? When there is light. But it's not so much light. There's another. We need an adjective before the word light. Because the truth is, it's light by Amra Shacha.
Enough light.
Who?
Enough light.
Enough light.
For certain activity, probably.
Sufficient light.
For certain activity, not just for
Who?
sufficient for what? Sufficient for what? Sufficient for certain activity, probably.
Correct. Yeah. Well,
We have to
the
figure out-
issues, Yeah. So what the criteria is, right? People get up, so that's the din. I mean, that's the principle when they get that actually of kumecha, But when do people get up? People get up when there is not just light, but there is sufficient light to do an activity or function. Exactly. So Tanakama says, Tcheles Lovan, which is an earlier time period. And Rabbi Eliezer says, nope, Tcheles Lovan, you can't get up that early, because it's not sufficient light. So you need more light, so therefore Tcheles Kanti. So it's interesting, they seem to be arguing in what?
Metzias.
sufficiency or sufficiency of light to merit ufkamecha. Interesting.
Could they be arguing on how many people wake up when it's sufficient, when there's sufficient light for the differential between Chesed Lavan, and how many people get up when when there's sufficient light between Chesed Kati? Meaning, are we going after the minority of people getting up, or are we going after the majority of people getting up?
Well, could be, maybe. You know, maybe. In other words, they all hold it has to be sufficient, but not everybody gets up at Chelis L'Lovan.
Right.
You know, so it could be that the Tanakama holds Chelis L'Lovan, even though a minority gets up. You know, whereas Rebbe Eliezer holds you need a majority to get up to determine Ufkamecha. You know, and so on. You know, or maybe the Tanakama holds that is the majority, and he holds everybody.
Right.
Depends on how you shift it, you know. But that's probably what the machlokes is, because how could there be machlokes in sufficiency of light, really, you know? I mean, the truth is, what's the time difference between these two shitas?
A couple of minutes probably.
Yeah, probably 5 minutes, 10 minutes,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, what lends support to that is that the next line, he says, he gives the reason at the end, and he bases it on the minority.
But going
People are still waking, yeah.
Yeah.
And he says, because it came to Derek B'nai Mlachim.
Yeah, but
So he says, they seem to be saying that even if there's a few people still getting up at that stage, that would make sense to the early time.
What are you talking about, the Goimra?
Yeah.
Okay, that means it ends by Netzachama.
Right. But his reason is because it's on the minority of people are still getting up.
The reason is because the minority people are getting up.
Yeah, that's the reason why there's a time period. Correct.
Right. But so I'm just saying that the same sort of logic applies to the machlokes in the beginning. How many is it enough of a minority of people getting up, like Techelis and Lavan, or do we need most people to be getting up? Techelis and Kar.
Then at the end, the end period would be when everyone
Right.
is up.
Yeah.
Do we know Mitzius people really woke up that early?
Well, in an agricultural society, that's probably what happened.
Maybe.
Farmers.
They lay in bed awake, and then when it's sufficient light, they get up.
Yeah, to do their farming, planting, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because remember, the way they lit anything was with candles. You know what I'm saying? Candles are not very efficient. So they had to take advantage of all the daylight they can get. Right? So that's why they would get up as early as possible to take advantage of the daylight time and go to sleep at the daylight time. You know? That's why you find people going to sleep at right by what do you call it, Tzeis, yeah. Who goes to sleep at Tzeis HaKachavim? You know, he's up to 12 o'clock at night. You know, because again, since they had to take advantage of the daylight, there wasn't much they could do at night, certainly on the farms. So they might as well go to sleep. They would eat and then go to sleep, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, that's probably what determined it. The real question is, in an industrial society, does this hold out?
Oh, does it change?
To change the whole. This is not. We don't do this. You know, nobody goes to sleep at Seis. You know, who goes to sleep at Seis? And people don't. Well, actually, people get up in time to get to work. They don't care about light sufficiency anymore. You see, that concept of light sufficiency is not true in an industrialized society, because you can turn on the light bulb. You know, you can have light sufficiency any second you want. You just go into a switch on, you got light. See? So what would be interesting is, in today's society, you know, what is all this meaning? Because the time of getting up and going to sleep has shifted in society.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
So we have to say that it's just describing when the Torah was given.
Well, apparently, as long as society was agricultural,
Yeah.
you'd have this, you know. So then they would with candles. Then they would use gas lights, you know, whatever, or candles, you know. But in an industrial society, especially a society that has light bulbs, you know, people don't go to sleep at Seis. Nobody goes to sleep at Seis anymore, except if you're rural, if you're on a farm, you know, and they don't get up. They get up in time to go to work.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? People get up even though there's, yakir. You know, even though there's sufficiency for farming, people still sleep another hour. Because they don't have to go to work until another hour. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, one thing to consider here is like, if the criteria for the time period, like I said, is not a time period, it's an activity. That's the interesting thing about it. That the Torah's criteria for what? For the Zmanim of Kriya Shema is not a time. It's an activity called going to sleep and getting up. Or lying in bed. And that has changed radically. You know? So like I say, so the real question is, what happened today? What do we do today, if that's the case?
Maybe it should change because most people, maybe it goes after majority of people. Maybe that's what we should change today.
I'm just saying, well, I'm not saying, I'm not, you know, I'm just saying, that is a real consideration.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but most probably that when the Torah was given, Uvshar b'chov kumecha was said according to, meaning the Uvshar b'chov kumecha is not relative to the time you live in, it's relative to at the time it was given. And from there we learned that Uvshar b'chov kumecha means
So that's the question.
a time period.
No, but see that's the problem. If the time period of Kriya Shema was a time, day or night, evening or morning,
Right.
so that doesn't alter, that doesn't change.
Right.
But if the criteria, as I said, criterion of the time period is what?
Activity.
Is an activity. Well, an activity, what mankind does is based to a great extent on what he has for living, lights, work, industrial, not on the farm, and so on.
Yeah.
So the question is, what is the effect that our societal changes has done to this Zmanim of Kriya Shema? It's a real question.
Obviously it hasn't done anything, but we have to figure out
Yeah,
why.
because we said, but I'm sure that's still halacha.
Yeah.
You know? But you have to remember, when the Shulchan Aruch was written, when the Mishnah was written, it's 2,000 years ago. And when the Shulchan Aruch was written, by who? You know, by Yosef Kara. It was still agriculture. It was, it was Middle Ages. It was the same thing going on. There was no industrialization. Industrialization really started in 1840, 1850. You know what I'm saying? So even the Shulchan Aruch is really reflecting the time period of the agricultural, society.
Mishnah Berurah.
I don't know. Well, yeah, it's anyway. I won't belabor the point, but that's an important consideration. That the determinant is not a time period; it is an activity, and when does the activity take place? That's what determines the Zman. And the question is, well, what happens if it changes? That's an important consideration, But anyway, here in the Mishnah, is certain that it's sufficiency. Then the question is, okay, what are you talking about? Can we start reading Kriya Shema because the minority have gotten up? So that's what the Tanna Kama holds. The minority has gotten up, so that's all you need. It's not the minority. If people begin getting up at the earlier time period, they're not sufficient. Because Uvkumecha is really a range, isn't it? It's a range of time. It's a time period as opposed to a time point. So therefore, if people begin getting up, that's enough. But but Rabbi Eliezer could hold. It's true that people get up, but a couple of people. I need a sufficient group. I need a statistical. What do you call it? It's called significant N in statistics. I need a significant population getting up, and that will designate the time period. Yeah, I don't want 4 people getting up, and therefore all of a sudden everybody can read Kriya Shema because 4 people got up. No, when the majority gets up, it begins then.
Yeah.
So that's probably what the machlokes is.
Okay.
Okay. Then Rebbe Lezer says, "V'goyim it's the same Rebbe Lezer,
Yes.
right? Ad hanetzachama, which is interesting. Why would that? V'goyim, like what's the principle of this? What determines?
That's when
why
people.
not? That's quite early.
That's when most people are up.
Yeah.
By that time, most people are up.
Yeah.
Hard to believe.
Why? Fine, yeah.
I mean, some people.
I mean, in the
stop.
summer, that's a cham is 4 o'clock in the morning. 5 o'clock in the morning. You tell me the majority of people are up. Everybody's sleeping.
I mean, even in agricultural society.
No. They would have gotten up with the
They
sun.
would have.
Yeah, because they need that. There's no other way. You can't work at night.
He's not convinced.
Isn't it? But V'gomer, so we have to say, so Rebbe Eliezer holds that the majority of people, again, have gotten up. The majority of people have gotten up by then.
Yeah.
And if the majority of people have gotten up by then that ends the time period. You know what I'm saying?
Why does the Mishnah assume that Kumecha means when people get up?
Because well,
Maybe Kumecha means
When people are up.
standing
on
up. You mean standing? You mean
Awake.
risen?
Up. Maybe
Awake.
it means the whole
Not-
day.
You can
Yeah,
be either a
The Mishnah
rising.
says that.
Oh, the Kessin
He
Mishnah.
says if you miss Zman Kriya Shema in the morning, you could say the whole day, because Kumecha means the whole day, all the time you're awake. Everyone argues on it, but that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Pasha says Kumecha is a verb to get up, not to be up.
It's a rising,
Right.
not a risen.
Right.
You know, we are risen all day long. You know, not you know. Yeah. That's
Interesting.
But it's interesting what you pointed out before that almost every virtually all the people were up by Hanei Tzachama.
Yeah.
Everybody was up by then.
Yeah.
Except
Majority.
for the name Malachim.
Yeah. Well, he's going to go
That's the
everybody.
dissenting opinion. He looks at the minority, but you see that the majority were up by. It's an amazing statistic.
Yeah.
Almost
But the majority of people were up by
were
nets. Could you imagine in the summer when nets is 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock? I think
And
it's
Eretz
5, 4:30,
Yisrael.
whatever.
So they had in the Gemara Newman brings it that they had in the base English was that everyone was there already. By night, everyone was there. That's why they had the reflecting thing. So when the
Yes.
sun came up, everyone could see when it was night to say Krishma. Obviously, everyone was packed with
That
people
was
there.
Yuma.
It's new, yeah.
That's only Yom Kippur though.
No, that's the whole. What the name? Helia Malka, I think, donated this bronze with a silver shining
What do
thing.
you mean that's the
Every day, yes. The Kohanim would, so everyone there would know. They were up at night. They were in shul already.
Yeah. So that's what it is. So we have, how many sheetas we have?
Well,
So we have 2 sheetas for when it begins, and so far we have 1 sheeta when it ends.
Correct. And with the next statement is
Rabbi
Rabbi
Yeshua.
Yeshua.
Yeah.
That's the second sheet though. Ashar shows.
3 hours.
Shekendach Malachim Nabal Mishar shows. Because
And
some
then-
people, the Malachim only get up after 3 hours.
Yeah, they get up after because they're malach. They don't have to go to work.
Lead.
You go to work to support them, right? Tax. So so therefore clearly Rabbi Yeshua says that the range or the
Things
time
never
period,
changed.
that the time period of Bnei Malachim, a time period encompasses all people getting up, not just the majority.
Right.
And Bnei Malachim are the last guys getting up. Anybody getting up after that is not human.
What about the Melech? The Melech gets up before. He's busy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Bnei Malachim means princess or whatever. you
No,
know.
it's just
It's
important
spoiled.
people.
Spoiled
What?
prince.
People who have wealthy people, that's all.
Every-
It doesn't,
Yeah,
it doesn't
Bnei
mean
Malachim
literally,
are
that's
people
not
who don't go to
literally.
work. They're
Like you
well.
say, the king is busy, but his kids are spoiled.
Yeah. So clearly the Mishnah is dealing with the time period, right, of Kumecha. And then there's an argument, light sufficiency to function. The question is a minority or, no, you need a majority to begin. And when has everybody arisen? So the majority have already arisen, that's nets. And Rabbi Yeshua holds everybody, when everybody has arisen. And anybody else who sleeps after that is a no good for nothing guy.
Now, would you count this as a separate statement? His reason? Or
Which one?
Kein derech Bnei Malachim. Well, that's all. But his reason is a separate statement, or it's part of the one statement.
Some of these things are, depends how comfortable you are. I personally, let's say I counted, let me see 1 second. I had 8 statements here.
I think you have to count it as
2,
two.
3, 4, 5, 6. I counted it as separate, yeah. Even though it's the answer, well, just like I counted at the beginning, there was the question and the answer, I counted it as 2.
This is the reason, though. He says ad shalosh shows.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. It's just a
Change
separate
it,
statement.
yeah.
Even though it's so it's a rationale. What he's doing, he's actually providing you with the principle. That's what he's giving you. Then what do we have?
Next. Hakoyim Mikan Veilach. lo hifsid. Ke'adam hakoyer b'Torah. If somebody reads after the Zman,
Yeah.
he lo hifsid, saying, say the Brochos, for example.
The Brochos, yeah.
So he could still say Kriyat Shema with Brochos. Ke'adam hakoyer b'Torah.
Yeah.
What's a little hard? I'm not sure.
Well, the question is, let's see what it means, you know. How do we learn this?
There are two things.
What?
There is Shema and there are Brochos. There are two different things. So Shema is learning Torah. It's not a big deal. I mean, it means it doesn't have to be mitzvah. You just read it. But Brochos are not going on Shema. Brochos are on their own. And that's the way to learn it, probably.
They're independent.
Right. That's independence of Brochos. That's the key point over here.
Yeah. So therefore, you remember we categorized Shema when,
Yeah.
remember we had two different dinim?
Right.
That over here?
Yeah.
We had, what do we have? Remember what's the two fundamental things about the mitzvah Shema? There it is. You had the action and the subject. So where does the Brochos of Yishma fit? Is it an action or is it an object?
Subject.
Subject is who?
Object.
No, it's object.
Object. Yeah.
What? How would you give me a name?
I mean, one object is Shema, another object is Brochos. Shema.
So therefore-
Brochos Shema. It's another object.
Oh, it's another object.
Why is,
Yes.
why is it not an action? It's one of the rules
text.
is the recitation of how you recite it.
It's text.
Just like you have to recite it loudly and audibly and clearly, you have to recite it with the blessing point. When you do a mitzvah, I mean, I don't know if it's a mitzvah, but if it's a bracha on the mitzvah of Yishma.
So you're saying it's an action.
I'm saying it's part of the action. It's one of the rules of the action.
It's action. But if it says lo hifsid, what does that mean?
He still,
It says
Pasha means he can still say the brachas, even though he's not doing the mitzvah. He can still say the brachas, not saying a bracha levatala.
Yes, so that would be text. It was the text of the brachas. You're still able to do the text of the brachas even afterwards.
Even though you- So then how does it fit under Shema? Then it really shouldn't fit under, from that, it shouldn't fit under Shema altogether.
Okay, so how would we fit it?
Make a new whiteboard.
Who not what?
And the next whiteboard, instead of saying Shema at the top, and say bracha.
No. So So we don't want to do that. We don't want to create too many categories, right? So what would we call it? In other words, clearly what this is what? Is that we're talking about two things. One, right? There's two dinim here. Yes? What is lo hifsid, which means what?
Brochos.
So there's two dinim here. That there's the concept called brochos, and then there's a concept called recitation.
Right.
You see? So in this one statement, the chiddush is there are two things going on. The Mishnah automatic, there's not even an introduction here, that there is brochos, and there is the kri of those brochos. So the Mishnah says, without even telling us that there's brochos, that if it's after the Zman, you could read the brochos. Excuse me, what brochos? It's like the name of Saikon Shema B'Yavos. What Shema? We don't even know what Shema. You tell me when we can read it? You know what I'm saying?
How are we putting it under Shema though? I would have said it's an accompanying bracha, but it's not.
That is the expression.
It's not an accompanying bracha.
Why not?
Because if after the time, there's no point in saying Shema altogether, but the brachas you still say.
No, but you do say the Shema. You still
But
have to say
that's
Shema.
not saying Shema, that's saying...
No, you're not yoitz with that Shema,
Right,
but
that's,
it is saying
halakhically
Shema.
that's nothing. It's
No.
like reading the Torah, that's what I'm saying, it's like reading the Torah.
So the chiddush is what?
The
the
Brochos
you
brachas
don't
are not
need-
connected to the Shema.
to the mitzvah. They're not connected to the mitzvah.
They're not connected to the. You don't have to be yoitz the Shema to have the accompanying brachas. You can have the accompanying brachas as
That-
long as the Shema has significance.
What significance does it have? But that's
No,
true.
what is this curvature mean? What's that mean? What do you mean? He's like, who cares? He's not yoitz to the mitzvah Shema.
Right.
So like,
Torah for sure
so
people do.
it's over with. You know what I'm saying? It's over with, so it's too late. I mean,
Right.
so the only time the brachas can be read is if there's a significance that you're yoitz Shema at the same time. Yes?
That's not true though.
No, exactly. So the chiddush of Ka'odam HaKorban Torah is what? We still need a justification. That's what it's saying. It's if it wasn't Ka'odam HaKorban Torah, you couldn't do the brachas. But since reading Shema even after the time period does have a significance, namely you're reading Torah, so then you could do the brachas too.
But that, again, that's not connected to Shema.
No, it doesn't have to. That's the chiddush.
So then how? So then again, the brachas are not they're not under the category of Shema. There's something separate.
No, but you can't say
No, they
Brochos.
are because well, first of all, they're called Brochos Shema. But the main idea is that. But the main idea.
The brachas don't mention Shema.
What?
The brachas don't mention Shema.
No.
Still, we can't
But the
somebody
word
else
you
without
used
Shema.
is the correct word. What would you use?
Before accompanying.
That's right, exactly. It's called textual accompaniments. That's what it's called. It's the text to Shema, and there are accompaniments to that text. What are they? The brachas. Now the question is, you know what I'm saying? So that's what I would call it. That there's a new topic, category called what are the accompaniments to the text called Shema? What is it? So the answer, these are textual accompaniments. Because if you say Shema, you still have to say the brachas. You know what I'm saying? Generally speaking.
Right. But if you miss the time,
Oh,
you
so
don't want to
now-
say
no,
Shema,
no.
but you want to say some different passion.
So there's two dinim here. One is that there is the concept called brachas. Two, that they must accompany the Shema. That's really what's
But
happening.
they must not though.
What?
No, they must.
No, because
Text.
No.
Not the mitzvah text.
No,
the text of Shema is irrelevant. You could say anything in the Torah. God, you could read.
No,
you could
the
say
brachas-
Parshas Bereshis and say.
I don't know. Where'd you get that
Well, the
from?
Rav said. I'm just saying reading that because
Who says this?
the Batnura.
What? Yeah.
It's like anytime you read Torah, you read any part of the Torah, you get tzach for reading Torah.
No, but still.
No, but
brachas.
it has to be the Shema. Can
Where
it
do you
be
see that?
anything? Then
Why,
why don't-
where do you see it has to be Shema?
You're the chiddush, not me. Who's the chiddush here? It's just me, right? You're the chiddush here. You see what I'm saying? All it says, Lo Hiv said what? Because a curry what? A curry shema. No. A curry the brachas, yeah. A curry man can be after the Zman of Shema.
No.
Lo Hiv, right?
No. Hakar is Shema.
A curry shema,
No,
yeah.
Kan veilach.
Yeah.
Lo hivsi the brachas.
Brachas, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah. So yours a chiddush because according to the Mishnah, if I read Shema,
So
but
what
I
is
still
the-
have to read Shema.
What is the status of what is the action you're doing after the Zman of Kriyas Shema when you're saying the words? What are you doing?
Because you've been yotzei divrei Torah.
So divrei Torah. It could be any divrei Torah.
apparently-
Why? Who says this
No,
divrei
it
Torah?
doesn't say that here. I mean, maybe it's
But
true.
what's your reason for saying
Because
to this one?
because it doesn't say this.
Mm-hmm.
All it says is akuri mikam v'ilach. If somebody reads the Shema after it's man,
Mm-hmm.
but we're talking about what's the case. What is the case?
And we're comparing to a Korah b'Torah.
We can
So that means
so
any
far-
part of the Torah. Otherwise, why comparing them to a
No,
Korah
no,
b'Torah?
no, no,
What's your question?
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Hakuri mikam v'ilach. If anybody reads the Shema after this man,
Mm-hmm.
but he's reading the Shema, lo hifsid the brachas. He doesn't mafzeh. He can still read the brachas to this Shema.
Right.
The Shema is not yotzei anything.
Why?
But since it is a mitzvah, then the brachas can accompany that type of Shema. That's all I can read from this.
So what is the mitzvah then? The Torah says we just told me the end time.
Korah
We know
Torah
what-
is the mitzvah.
So if that's
Not
true, so
Yotzei
according to what you're saying,
Kriyas
Korah Torah is the mitzvah. So then any Kriyas Torah, which would be a mitzvah, you made up a new mitzvah though. You made up a new mitzvah.
No.
Kriyas the Pasha Shema, not in the Zman of
Wait.
No, mitzvah is
No.
brachas.
No.
Yes, brachas.
What
If after the
it
moment.
says in the Mishnah,
Right.
right? We know one that there's the accompanying brachas. One, we know two that accompany Shema. Anyways, we know that there are brachas. One,
Right.
two, we know that they are supposed to accompany Shema.
Text of Shema.
The text of
Well,
Shema.
I'm-
That's two. Well, I mean that's what.
And not the mitzvah.
That's
I'm just saying.
exactly. That's
Well, I mean-
takana. That's a takana, right? So we know there are brachas.
That's how it's done.
We know that.
Yeah.
Well, that's the takana. That is the takana of Chazal. That the brachas which you say Sheva b'yom hilal, whatever, you're supposed to say 7 brachas, whatever, right?
I know.
So what Chazal said is we want you to say those. The placement. Where's the placement of those brachas?
That's
You
less
know?
Mishnah.
Yeah, well,
I'm
yeah.
not saying
Wait.
it's we don't know if that's intrinsic
All I'm saying is
or
what.
practical.
All I'm saying is the Mishnah says the following: if you read Shema, right after this man, so those brachos that are supposed to accompany it do not necessarily accompany it when you're yotzei the mitzvah of the Shema. Even if you read the Shema, this is what it says. You can also do the brachos. Why? Why is that? Because do not think that the legitimacy of brachos accompanying the Yitzrah is only if you're yotzei. As long as you're saying Shema, and the significance of that is you are yotzei divrei Torah, that is sufficient. That's all. Now,
So from that,
you
you-
want to extrapolate something further.
I'm not. Okay.
You want to
It's not really much of an extrapolation.
Lav dafka shma as a divrei Torah, any divrei
Because you
Torah.
say, because the mission tells me cook
That's a chiddush. I'm not saying you're
Right.
wrong.
Mhm.
I didn't say you're wrong, but that's a chiddush because it doesn't say that in the Mishnah. It could very well possibly be that somebody could say, well, like you said, well,
I said
we'll
Shema by
extrapolate-
itself before earlier,
Yeah.
without brachas. And now I finally get to now it's after Zman Kriya Shema, and I want to say just the
Yeah,
brachas.
that may be the halacha, but that doesn't say that. It doesn't say in the Mishnah that.
So you have to tell me
No,
why-
ka'adam
because
akar,
Torah b'Torah.
that the Shema that you're reading is as if you're reading Torah.
So comparing A
So
to
this-
B.
So
The
no,
reason- how does the comparison work?
Wait, so I'm saying like this, that the brachas can only be read with Shema, but the significance of that Shema does not necessarily have to be that you were yoytze the Shema. The significance could be that you're yoytze a mitzvah of divrei Torah, and that is enough for these brachas to accompany the Shema. That's how I'm learning, because that's what it says. If you want to extrapolate on that and say, well, lav dafka Shema, it could be any Torah because you're yoytze a mitzvah.
So why
that's a
did it
chiddush.
ask you, so why compare?
That's
Why
right.
why did it say the reason is ka'adam hakayah b'Torah? Why not
No.
just tell me ka'adam?
Just said.
No, that's what I said.
Why you're comparing A to B? You're comparing your recitation of Shema after this man to B, which is Kari B'Torah. So therefore, you're saying A is good because it falls within the category of B. That means that A is a subcategory of B.
Well, I don't want to say A and B.
So you're saying the Shema after this man
The
is
Shema
good,
after this man.
but is good because it's included
Because
in B,
it
Kari
is-
B'Torah. Well, it is a
Because it's
part
a
of Kari
mitzvah.
B'Torah.
Because it is also a significant. What you're doing is significant because it is a mitzvah.
But
And
it's
as
the
long
Kari
as
B'Torah, not any mitzvah.
yeah, but it's still
Right.
it still could be that the takana is only that it can only be read with Shema. That takana. In other words, it's not that all of a sudden the guy says Breishis Borokim Shema Yisrael. Then all of a sudden he says Breishis Borokim. According to you that would be fine, right?
It's like,
I'm
what we do short.
I'm remembering a bright that the Kohanim didn't say Shema right away. They said Yotze'or, and they said Aseret Dibros for a while. That was the third
Yotze
time.
or
And
and
Aseret
okay,
yeah.
that's
So they said part of the brachas that we call Kriya Shema.
yeah,
They
but
said
it's
something
not
else.
likely that because Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim Lefonov, and I could say the Brochos. I somehow it doesn't ring. You have to check. Look,
Try tonight.
somehow it doesn't ring it. Even though it's divrei Torah, it's a mitzvah divrei Torah. It seems so from the Mishnah. This is what you can glean. The what? Vayishlach Yaakov.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's covering their eyes. Vayishlach Yaakov Melech.
Wasn't font.
Well, no about that.
Right, well,
Tumble.
yes, Kriya Shema, obviously.
What I'm saying is this: if you want to machadish something, fine, but you need to know that it's a chiddush. What I'm saying is you need to know when you've stepped out of the pshat into territory that you are now.
I mean, I'm not going to. I don't know we should hold it up, but I still.
No, I just want to make that point. So I'm not saying no. I'm just saying it's a chiddush, and therefore, that's all. But the pshat in the Mishnah is it's got to accompany Shema. That's why it's called. It's the Brochos Kriya Shema or Shema, and this is what's called a text extension.
The brachos.
The
is
brachos
text
are-
extension.
that's-
So on the
that's-
object I have text,
Text,
then I have text extension.
or basic text or essential text is a better word, right? And text extension.
Right, but his problem in the structure is that how do you put action onto this text extension? Meaning, what we're dealing with now is we're not dealing with what is a text extension. We're dealing with when could the text extension be read. So we're back to action.
No, where would you fit it?
I'm not sure.
No,
So I'm going to write text, essential text.
where would you fit it, guys?
You understand my problem?
In other words, how do we fit this Mishnah in this?
Right. So here you have
this,
essential text.
the model or paradigm.
And then you have
Where is when it says
Extension.
Ka'odim Akar B'Torah, right? So we know. Okay, so the Mishnah is telling us that you can say the brachos even though you're not yotze the Shema, right? Even though you have a yotze mitzvah, but not mitzvah's kriya Shema. Fine. Where does it fit? Because we need to fit this in there. Anybody see it? Got it? Anybody see this? Tell me where it fits.
oh, that's my question.
So that under object we have the essential text, which is the Shema, and we have the extension, which is the Brochos. Fine, and you'll see that's even very good because when you get to Mishnah Hay, there's another text going on,
Yeah.
which you'll see. So that's why we differentiate. This is called text extension. That's what the accompanying Brochos are a text extension of the Shema.
Okay.
Good, but where does it fit? Where does this halacha fit? That is the question.
Actually, I should probably make the relationship like this instead of that. I mean, the object is the essential text, and then there's an extension.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So this is clearly talking about an extension of the text. Fine. But we have a halacha about this, that the kriya of these brachas can be done whether you yoytze the mitzvah of kriya shema or you yoytze the divrei Torah, not shema.
Right.
So where does that fit?
I mean, what I would do is I would go and do the same exact three categories that we did on the Shema, which is subject, action, object, under the extension. Because the extension is not anymore...
No, you don't want to do that. No, you don't need to do that. Within this itself,
What's wrong with extension? Just simple extension. What else do we need?
who?
It's extension. We have main text. We have extension.
Yeah.
That's all. What are we missing?
What we're missing is that when can you read the extension?
Oh, but when can we read Shema? It's exactly the same thing. I mean, how, when. I mean, we have how, when, where. We have how, when, where, and the extension. Oh,
Anybody see it?
What he said? No, I don't
no,
see. I don't see what
he didn't say anything.
No. You know what the problem is?
He meant to say, but he didn't.
And this is a very good example. You know what the problem is? We're missing a category. This forces us to create a new category.
We're definitely missing something.
That's why. That's where we're having problems here. We're having problems here because we're missing a category. What is the category we're missing?
There are two actions.
We already put the concept of the brochos on the extended text. So that concept of brochos is there under object, but it's text extension. Fine. There's Shema and there's the extension, which is the brochos, which accompany. Fine. But we're now talking about the kriya of these brochos.
So maybe under action, now we should have essential text and an extension.
No. What is the Mishnah saying? What does the Mishnah say? When can you read the brochos?
Could read the brachos.
Anything.
Either when I'm Yotzik Hashema or when I'm Yotzik Vater.
So let me ask
Which means
something.
anything.
No, you actually can only say technical source.
At night, probably not. Well, first of all, it's also around Tefillah.
What?
Do it for beginners. Or Chatzos, if you want to go further.
Random.
What does it say? It says, I can read the brachos, whether I'm being Yotzei Shema, whether I'm not being Yotzei Shema, but I do get Tzcha as Divrei Torah. What does Yotzei mean? What do we have here? We have a subject. There's an action. What is his action?
His action
Read it,
is...
He reads it.
Read it.
What is he reading?
Text.
And then now what happens?
Now he's
After
Yotzik.
you
What is that called?
Fulfillment?
Almost.
legal outcome.
Almost. It's the effect.
Effect.
It's an effect. So what we're learning now, there's a separate category called after the action on the object. Well, what's the effect?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
The effect is Yotze
Yotzei.
or not Yotze.
Or not Yotzei. Yeah.
How would that... This whole chart is being
So-
Yotze the mitzvah. I don't get-
Yeah. So under
No, I
object.
understand.
So under object. So object text. Oops.
What happened? The toaster.
So text extension, which are the brachos, depends on the effect of Kriya Shema, or it doesn't depend on Kriya Shema. So the chiddush is that the text, the Kriya of the brachos, right, it doesn't make a difference what the effect of the Kriya Shema is. Whether the Kriya Shema was Yotzei or not, you can still read the brachos. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. So let's try to...
But you still need the category of effect. Because that's what the determinant is. That there is no difference in effect. It means you read Kriya Shema, but we don't care what the effect is. As long as the effect is a mitzvah, right? You can read the Brochos.
I don't understand why you need effect, because when you start, you're saying,
Because
I have
that's
a mitzvah
the-
to be Yotze called Kriya Shema.
No, because that's what the halacha is. What is the halacha telling me? When it says lo hifsid, what is it telling me? What
Still
is
say
it telling?
Brochos.
No, I mean it says that, but that's not the chiddush
Yam
here.
Nakori
That
B'Torah.
the effect has
It's irrelevant. That's what it's telling me.
Right.
I can read the Brochos whether I'm yotze the Shema, the essence, or not yotze. I still read it. Why? Because the effect has to be a mitzvah, not a yotze mitzvah. That's the chiddush here. Is that I can read the Brochos as long as there's a mitzvah involved in the Kriya of Shema. But lav davka, it has to be yotze in the mitzvah of Kriya Shema.
Is this a
That's the
general,
chiddush here. You see what I'm saying?
is this a general category that we should apply to every single mitzvah?
What?
Effect?
Yeah, sure. The
Lulav.
legal
Let's go
consequences.
back to Lulav.
Sure, yeah, lulav, yeah. Were you yotze or not?
But,
Sure.
when you come to Lulav, it's not, the effect makes no difference, meaning the whole chart is saying, am I Yotze Lulav or not? That's the whole chart.
Yeah, but here there's an accompaniment. That's the interesting part.
Here it makes it, here
There's two
it's an
kriyas.
interesting...
The interesting is that there's a text extension which also has a kriya. So the question is, what are the rules of this text extension in terms of this
But there's no
kriya?
nafkamina with that category.
Where? Sure there is.
What's the nafkamina?
No, yeah, because you have to be able to point to an effect and saying lav davka. That the effect still has to be a mitzvah. Ka'odem HaKor Torah is telling you that you need the effect. It's got to be at least a mitzvah of divrei
Won't be the
Torah.
effect by Lulav.
Who?
Does it?
What?
Does it?
Does
I mean,
what?
do we hold halacha? You have to say it. If you say you can't say Kriya Shema after no without. Well, I think halacha is actually you can say it without the Kriya Shema.
Well, we're talking about the takana. That's what we're talking about.
Right. So is it takana?
I mean,
exactly.
theoretically, the whole thing you don't need nishma. It's all you need to do is recite brachos. Those 7 brachos.
Right.
What do we need shema for?
Right.
But there's a takana. Chazal felt it important that this must accompany shema. But
It
apparently,
should. It must. No doubt. They didn't feel it was, but it must. They
What?
felt it should. But the right, it must not. I mean, there is no. It's not necessary for it to come Shema.
no, that is your chiddush.
No, I'm-
My chiddush is not that. It must accompany the shema. The question is, wait a minute, what shema? Does the shema have to be the shema that I'm yotze, or even a shema that I'm not yotze?
So what? A Shema that I'm not yoked is not a Shema. It's an. It could be. It's not a Shema.
Ka'odem HaKor B'Torah.
And not Ka'odem
That's the
HaKor Shema.
criteria. What?
And not Ka'odem HaKor Shema.
No, not the Shema that you're yotze, but it does have to accompany the text of Shema.
But that's a
That's
separate...
not the.
That is the Shema, because the Shema text itself is a verbal declaration of something. Even fine, I'm not yotze the
Well, that's
mitzvah,
or not.
but I thought made a verbal declaration of those 6 points that we went through. That is, it's thought something. It's not zero.
That's a big chiddush, though. I mean, that is a big chiddush.
But that's
You have
what
to
it
know when
says.
you're saying a chiddush.
Well, that's what it says.
No, but to say that that the Shema when you're not yotze still has significance other than just.
that's what you mean.
Ka'odem
The
HaKor Shema.
Torah.
Yeah,
That's what it says.
No.
There are many mitzvahs there.
It's not a heritage.
There's another chat that Kedem HaKor B'Torah.
Yeah,
No, why should we do
No,
that?
I'm
Don't
saying
not
that's
Halachic significance. It has to have a halachic
Hakura
significance.
mikan va'ilach lo yifsid.
You're
To
yotze
say the
divrei
Shema
Torah.
when you're not
Yeah,
yotze
it's Shema.
has a
yotze
halachic
divrei Torah.
significance, halachic effect, is a big chiddush.
The what?
To say that Shema not when you're not yotze the mitzvah deraisa still has a halachic effect, saying it is a big chiddush.
Well, we're talking about the Brochos. We're talking about the Shema.
No, but what you're saying, you have to say the Shema
Yeah.
even after even when you're not yotze the mitzvah.
Yotze, because it does have a significance of the mitzvah, which happens to be divrei Torah, not Shema, but divrei Torah. That's what it says. Ka'odem HaKor B'Torah. Why is it saying this? Well, who cares? Ka'odem HaKor B'Torah. Just say because you thought reading Shema. No, that's what the Lashon says. You know.
No, there's another pshat that
I mean-
lo hifsid means lo hifsid till chatzos, the brachos. Kedem HaKor B'Torah means that Kriyat Shema you can say the entire day Kedem HaKor B'Torah.
Yeah.
It's like two different.
We're
But
going
that,
to
this Mishnah doesn't talk about that. Yeah, maybe there's other halachas going on,
Yeah.
but right now we're learning a Mishnah. That's all. You know. Then there's other people who are going to come in and say, "What do you mean?"
Like I think Ramban says that the brachas are brachas on nothing to do with Krishna at all. Just feel I think.
Yeah, there's about you. But right now, our job is to focus on the pshat, and this is what it says.
I have a question on the way this chart is done, and I want to preface that
So
with a
therefore
question.
you need, what I'm saying, you need the category called effect, because that effect, we would think, determines the Brochos.
Let me
and
ask
the
you a question. Birchas Hamazon.
Yeah.
Does that have a when?
Who?
Birchas Hamazon. Let's say that mitzvah is Birchas Hamazon. Does that have a when in the action?
Yes, of course
The
it
action
does.
is after you eat.
You're correct. Exactly.
So then why can't, instead of making a new category effect, under extension make a when, and then say any time you say Shema?
Under extension, make a when?
Right here, it's just transplant a when onto here, make a when down here.
You're turning the extension into an action. Because when
You
is
can't,
under an
that's
action.
an object.
Now we're on the object. You want to turn an extension into an action?
Can't do that. What you can do is from subject
So what do you do with the
action.
effect?
Oh, so therefore, what you can do, you can divide it earlier. In other words, you have subject, right?
Right.
Then you have object. That's really what you have first, not action. You first have
Under object, you have essential text and text.
Oh, and on the object it splits,
Right.
and then
Each one has their own action.
exactly, which
So
happens
you don't
to
need
be
effect. So we can really get rid of effect.
Yeah.
We can get rid of effect.
Yeah.
We can instead make a subcategory called action that has to do
If
with.
it's done that way, so then you could put the reading of the Brochos
Right.
is dependent on the effect of Shema. It's you still need an effect, but it could be placed.
The point being, you can
Under
mix
action.
and match.
It could,
You could rearrange things depending on the mitzvah.
yeah. I mean,
No, if the subject is if the
Based-
subject has to do no matter if the subject is the same no matter what. In this case, the subject is men. Let's say right,
Yeah.
men above bar mitzvah. So that applies to everything.
Yeah,
so it can be a
yeah,
separate
that's-
category. But with here it makes a difference. So under action, you'd have to move this down here, and then split that into text and essential text, and then have all.
in fact, we're going to have to reconfigure it again when we get to the fifth Mishnah, because that's Vayomer, right?
It's expansion.
What is Vayomer? Is that an extension or is that an expansion?
What?
It's an expansion.
There's Vayomer, right? There's Yitzias Mitzrayim. That's really what Vayomer is
So
about.
each mitzvah is a unique
Oh.
tree.
Expansion.
No, we need to put it under one framework.
But
So what's going to happen is this: you're going to have subject, you're going to have object, and under object you're going to divide it into three. There's the essential Shema, which is the first two parshas.
Right.
There's the expansion of the Shema,
Expansion, and
which is the
extension.
Vayomer, and then the extension.
And each one has a how and where.
Exactly. Each one has their own halachas. Exactly.
But
Each one has
what we
own
see from
action.
this is that it's
Wow.
configurable. Each mitzvah could have a unique tree.
But no. Well, you want to put it under one tree.
No, but he's asking.
Each mitzvah. I'm forget about
Oh, you
Shema.
mean three? Mean
Let's say
each-
Brochos now.
They have each
we
one
can
has its own.
reconfigure it depending on
Well,
what
yeah,
works
each
best
one
for
has
that
its own
mitzvah.
categories. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Because we now realize that there's not just one text we're dealing with. We're dealing with three,
Shabbos.
and each one has their halachas.
So the Yesod is the simplest structure for that mitzvah.
We're looking for ultimately a structure that encompasses all the halachas of Kriya Shema.
Now I understand,
In one
Kriya-
structure.
But for each mitzvah, let's say Kriya Shema, Brochos, and Tefillah. Let's say that.
Yeah, well, each one will have its own.
Each
yeah,
one has
of
whatever.
Course.
So you're always aiming for the simplest structure for each mitzvah.
Yes, correct. So you're going to reconfigure this.
Ah,
So we might as well do it now. You're going to first of all get rid of action because that goes after object.
Oh, they don't need anymore.
What's this?
So
Yeah,
that's
we don't
me.
need this. See, that's why everything is always tentative.
Practice the whole week.
Because all of a sudden, you never, you only, when you
That's how you
finish it
learn.
all, then you can make the real, what's called a finalized structure. But we now realize that there are three texts we're dealing with. See, this threw in a monkey wrench, as they say, and it didn't even tell us that there are brachos that accompany. You know what I'm saying? So now we realize. So there are three things going on. There's the essential text, which is the first two parshas. Then there's the expansion, which is called Vayomer. And I call it expansion. Why? Because it's really part of the Shema. And then there's the extensions, which are accompaniments.
Sounds like Bikurim.
Yeah, well,
The
sure.
three minutes by Bikurim. There's a Kramatzvam, the Tosos Bikurim, and the beautiful.
Whatever, yeah, exactly.
Figure that out.
So subject, object, and on the object you can have three things. One is the essential, which is the Shema, volume Shema, the essential,
That's under object.
Under object, correct.
I didn't get it. Right. Essential.
No, under object.
Yeah, it's all.
Yeah, it's
what
more
do you
alignment,
think?
you know.
All right, fine.
Then each one of these are going to have on the side. Then you can have under these, you know, well, actually, it's going to be the action.
Then we're gonna
Each one has their own halachas. They have what do you do with them, when do you do it, where do you do it, etc. So we now have one that has now become divided to three. So we had to reconfigure the whole thing. You see.
Then you can take away effect, really.
So action is only going to be a category, no longer of one. Expansion, yeah, okay. And on the side now,
Expansion is an A. Wait.
expansion with an A. Yeah. As we get to see the spelling ability of people.
Oh, this,
That's where we get into trouble.
everything is a work, in
Work in
process.
progress.
In progress. So
Okay.
now we have to.
No, put a line from object down.
Yes.
On the action. Each one's going to get its own action.
Each one gets its
Each
own-
one is its own. It's more than that. Each one gets its own action, its own time period. You know what I'm saying? Maybe its own kavonas. I mean, there's a whole section of categories now. There's a whole section. There's a whole going down on these. You know, that's a text, and on the going down
Right.
is a list of all the different operations or performances, the categories. What do you do with it? When do you do? How do you do it? Etc. You see what I'm saying?
So we have action. Under each one we have action.
You're going to put on a side which goes for all of them. Each object now, or each text, now has action. What is the action?
Just go to the chart.
Which is Kriya, right? What is the time period of each of the actions?
Major
You know what I'm
surgery.
saying? What is the time period? You know, when? How is it done? You know, it's all the halachas of conditions are now going to be applicable not just to Shema, but to the expansion and to the extensions. Got it?
Meaning under action you have when, where, how, when. What was the categories we had?
Well, action is
Under action,
Extension
how,
is
when,
a
and
vice
where.
versa, this is ex-
Yeah.
it's
How, when,
extended
and where.
mishna.
That is were
Extension
like
of
the
Brochos,
three
which are added.
subcategories we had under action. How, when, and
I think
where.
each one
So we have
its own
same
sub-
on
all
all
that.
that, so we have to rearrange everything.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even do that. Just, you know, action, what is the action? When can the action be performed? How is it
He likes to use
performed?
different.
Under, yeah, you could put just as categories under action.
On the side
No.
over here.
Yeah.
Because you're adding on a new block.
And then all that will apply to each.
Well,
See how the whole
you
thing
take the room and
changes.
you blow it up. No, it's a.
Now it looks simple. I mean, how could it be otherwise? And we were like, trying to
Use the
struggle
word
with
you
this.
want.
You always have to be ready to reconfigure.
You miss such a spooky moment.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have action.
Well, action, which is and under action itself, you're going to have a lot of ideas, right? Under Kriya, you have to. Can you?
You can do requirements for Kriya.
Yeah, okay. You know, can you read it backwards, forwards? Do you have to be vocal?
Didactic.
Yeah, can you vocalize it? That's all under the Kriya itself. That's subcategories of the action,
And could be different.
which
for
is
different-
true of all of them.
What's
See?
the position of the person laying down? Or
Yeah, which is what it's how do you read it? Which is position requirements and so on. You know.
Yeah. That's tell me how.
Yeah, but see, yeah. So that and we just and that's what you realize it's just from learning one halacha here. Akarim mikam v'ilach bam. It just destroyed our previous structure, and now we have a new structure, which is much more realistic because now we can begin to see that the halachas of Shema is really the halachas of 3 different texts.
It doesn't make sense. It's so simple and nobody saw it. It doesn't make sense.
Well, I gave you guys a chance.
I think he has an.
Plenty of chance here.
I gave you guys a chance.
There's something wrong with this.
No, there's nothing wrong with you. Nothing.
When?
Well, when, where can you read it? And how?
The 4 W's and the A's.
Yeah, how?
No, not with W. Not with
How?
what?
I
Full
know
Y.
already.
Full Y. Now what is the object? Oh, that is action.
We have the what?
That's the
Where,
what is the
when,
Shema
how.
and the Y is the principle. Okay.
Meanwhile, we'll just leave that,
Some of the W's.
That's all, under action. And that will be across the board on all objects.
3.
Yeah. Because now we're not dealing with one text, we're dealing with three. Each one having their own halachas. You see. And this is what you have to slowly do. You have to slowly put it together. You know what I'm saying? Okay.
But one thing we, I mean,
What was that?
Now, under extension, you see extension? So the action is kriya. Right?
Yeah.
Under extension, when,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The when is now different from the extension from the essential text.
Correct.
It's beyond. You can go beyond. You see.
need to go three-dimensional.
Yeah. And you could put down, so what's the determinant? So you have to see if there's an actual time limit. Is there a time period that you can read the Brochos?
Sure.
And if there is, you have to put down its underneath. You put down its principle. That what? That as long as Shema has a significance of being a mitzvah, you can do it. If it's,
Right,
but then,
so
then
it's
you have to
not-
understand,
so
well,
it's not
so the
really
why is there,
behind-
what was that?
It's not beyond the essential text. I mean, the essential text has
Well, of Kumecha.
a Ufkumecha
Is the-
time
is the-
period,
Yeah.
and then it has another time period beyond Ufkumecha in case you did not say it in the right time, in its correct time period, in the appropriate time period.
No, but-
It's the essential text, right? Now the extension goes after any time period of the essential text. That's basically what we're saying. The essential text has two time periods.
No. There is, if you're after Kumecha, you are not in the time period of the essential text. You're
No,
out
the
of it.
essential text has two time periods. It has a time period where it has to be recited,
Yeah.
and then it has another time period in case you did not recite it at its...
No, that's not called a time period.
What is that?
It's not the mitzvah. You're just reading the Torah. That's all.
It's reading the Torah.
That's it. Has nothing to do with Shema. Has nothing to do with Shema. You're reading Shema in the Torah. That's it. But it's not the. We're concerned with the mitzvah of Shema,
So the
which is the
extension-
effect.
Okay, gotcha.
Our concern Shema and the effect of Yotzei of Shema. So each one of these things will, they'll either have the same or different.
So would there be,
I'm going to line up all the categories, which are all the different conditions that you have. The action is kriya, and you have all the different, and each one is subject to different laws.
So
That's
when
what's
we-
coming out here.
Would you put effect after when, meaning, would you branch it off and say, let's say when? When would be Zman, you make a Zman, and then you have during the Zman, and then after the Zman, and you'd have an effect.
I personally would
From
put
there.
down subject, object, right, and effect. I personally would put
But
that
effect-
down.
there are many
The
effects.
effect depends on
There are many
each
different
category.
effects.
I want to tell you something.
It's
There's what's
combined.
called, do it anyway, see what happens. In the end, you have nothing to lose. All you do is erase it.
is it scientific?
Why? Because
Undo.
if a category is, if it's there, you'll see connections. If it's not there and you got to invent the category, it's much harder.
That's the other way.
It's called tentative. It's called a
That's what we
category
did.
that's
It was
tentative.
there, the action was there, and we just rearranged it.
Yeah. So, in other words, what I do when I learn, what I do is I create categories, whether they are
Relevant or not?
Any action do, it may have an effect.
whether the category is conceptually or halachically significant is irrelevant to me in the beginning. All I'll do is if I find nothing to do with this category in the whole thing,
Just erase it.
I'll erase it. But meanwhile, if it's there, I'll always look at it and say, you know what I'm saying? That's it.
Can I ask a question?
That's why I go. What I do is always go overboard. I go be overboard. Why? Because you never know. I once told you the statement: chance favors the prepared mind. Right? If you have the category down, you're prepared. You don't have the category down, you are unprepared. And then you got to go crazy trying to figure out what's going on. You know what I'm saying? That's a
So I still don't understand what does the effect category help us for? Meaning, what are we going to do with an effect category over here? I mean,
Well, because
right now we just
no. Because why? Because each one of these things has an effect. Are you yoitz or not? When I say everything has an effect, there's a legal consequence to this. Am I yoitz or not?
so how would I put any?
Because that's the criteria. You want to be yoitz. You don't want to just say shema.
In red.
You want to be yoitz the shema. So you need to put subject, object. You know what I'm saying? Under object.
The effect has to be here.
You have action. Well, it
Effect of
depends,
Shema,
but there
not
has to be an
effect of
effect.
action.
The effect has to be where? Over here? Over here?
No, over there, after object.
After object?
Yeah.
And basically based on the action, when, where, how, if I go for each category, then I'll... But everything of everything we're talking about is to have the effect of being Yotze. That's
That's
our
what the
focus.
top. That's the blue on the top.
Shema.
Shema, means
Being
Yotze
Yotze
Shema.
Shema.
That's it.
That's what the effect is.
it.
That's the effect.
So we
That's
already
the
have
effect.
effects.
No. Because you have, for Horai, you have a time with this, you don't have the effect of being Yotze, and you still have to read the Brochos. You have to be able to indicate that.
So
There has to be
how will I indicate it if I put an effect?
Unless you put
category?
effect as a subcategory of Shema, and then you have like
Also,
two
it's just-
complete different
to
terms.
To defend the old
No, you need subject, object, what's that? Subject, object, action, and then
yeah,
effect.
actually on top.
Action
Yeah,
should be on top
yeah.
next to
The way we
object.
had it before. I mean,
No.
before we had it,
It's more complicated because there's three types.
the, before, the way we had it
There's
before.
three objects.
No, but it's different action, different
But the
action.
way we had
Where are
it
you gonna
before.
action?
Conceptual, you have a problem, technical problem, but conceptually.
Conceptually, action
It
should be here. That's
Yeah.
where it was till you came.
It should be on
Now-
top.
So,
It's-
so really you can make three different
You really
charts, three
need-
different forms.
that's what I said.
One for Shema, one for the expansion.
That's it.
extension.
But I said
That's
that.
what I was gonna
But
say.
that's what I said before. You said you don't want to do
put
that.
the green on
I
top,
said
you
besides that, make another chart and do that. And you said we don't want to do that.
So we're not-
Okay, I mean,
It's a technical issue.
That's where undo comes very handy.
look, it's nice to have it in one chart,
Right.
but if you look at it long enough, you say, wait a minute, you know? Because
So now what do you want to do? Put the green on top?
it's called a different set.
From the left hand?
There are three sets here.
What
There's a
is
set of Shema,
Yeah.
the set of the expansion,
So you're
and the
putting green
set
on
of the
top. So
extension.
you're really
You do
putting
three blues on top. Really.
So there are three
Shema,
sets.
expansion, extension.
Yeah, so really what will happen
This is
now,
where gesture-based interfaces come in handy.
although you really have to play with it. I don't know, maybe you
We
can
have
put
to
it in
secure
one.
this, very hard to tell
You have
now.
to
Just
play.
take it out to the
It's
end
not
and there
enough,
you go.
We need, we
But
need,
meanwhile-
we need a 3D model in the.
Yeah, matrix. A grid, a 3D grid.
So we need a
left,
3D ground, because you could put like a Shema and an expansion behind
Doing
it.
a smart board.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, if we had a 3D, which is interesting, then you'd have a 3D grid. So you could actually have, 3D means there's three different, what's called variables. There's independent
X, Y, and Z.
variables. X, Y, Z, yeah. And in that X, Y, Z, you can have all three sets with the same categories.
Because
Why only three dimensions? What happens if you need a fourth variable?
the expansion and the.
We'll get in trouble.
So far, we don't have a fourth variable. We don't have it yet.
So far.
So I need a second Mishnah.
And already 3 dimensions.
So far what we're saying is that it's best to
we
do
just got the whole Masechta. You don't understand.
to do what? To do a different
No, we
object.
didn't.
Yeah,
That's
that's good.
the
That's good.
guidance of the
We need to
Masechta.
do three different charts with object one time.
That's the model.
You're putting the green on top.
So the one object
We're replacing
it's three different sets.
essential.
Set one is only the essential text. Set two would be the expansion, and set three the extension.
But they connect.
That's what it looks
each
like.
one has
I
a-
don't like that. I inherently I'd much rather seek a way where I can have them all in one chart.
One chart.
Yeah. I mean, you have to think about that.
Because you have to
Well, why,
visualize.
I missed it, but you like it because you see Vayomer and the Brochos as an extension or expansion of the essential.
Yeah, because they're essentially
They're
part of
one
exactly. And
yeah.
so I hate to separate them in three sets. So
Because they're
I
connected,
have to-
it's really
I have to
one thing.
Think about what kind of configuration can I create?
So you still want everything. Rebbe still wants everything in one
Was it?
under Shema.
That when I did my Brochos chart, I did not have that have them together like that.
Yeah.
I didn't put the Brochos together.
No, because it's called an extension. That's why. You see, once Chazal, that's takana. They made this
Did
as
you
part of
explain
the.
why there are these Brochos in particular?
Well, we didn't get to really. We only just ended the second Mishnah.
It was me, but-
We didn't even get to the.
Oh, how did you get 8 statements by the way? What was you counted the last one as 2?
Has what?
The last one you counted as 2 statements. You had 8 statements in this Mishnah.
Yeah, the lesson was two.
Hakayot nikame lach lo hipsid, and then
You don't have to stop. Why? Because is the again. It's a rationale. Yeah.
So listen, so we're putting the three green boxes on under Shema. That's what we're doing now.
I have to figure out how all of this can be in one box, one structure.
Okay, so what's Shema over here? What does Shema mean?
Shema seems we're dealing with the mitzvah Kriya Shema.
obviously, I mean, not a mitzvah really, because sometimes it's not a mitzvah, yet extension is there. So
No,
a
it's
mitzvah.
only there for the brochos. But
Right.
look,
So extension is there. So what do? It's not mitzvah. It's not mitzvah shema. Then it can be mitzvah.
No, but yeah, but we're not dealing with the text of Shema. We're dealing with the mitzvah of Kriya Shema.
So when you're not yotzei, there's no mitzvah. So
No. So therefore, that will be a condition that Shema has two different times. One, it could be yotzei with it. What happens if you're not yotzei? Is it
then you use the
significant?
brochos for that.
Yeah, but it's still Shema. We're dealing with the mitzvah. We're not dealing with text. We're dealing with a mitzvah using this text. That's why.
And which mitzvah sometimes is kriya shema, sometimes something else. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's extension.
Yeah. Well.
It's more complicated. It's-
Yeah. Look, you need to keep this as simple as possible because you don't want to walk away with
Jumble.
Yeah. So I would prefer, although you have to think about how to do it. Just to, it's like Lego. It's almost like manipulating different ways of configuring something. It's always better to have it in one, unless you can't do
Well,
it.
it will be one if you put the three components under Shema,
And the object.
under object.
Yeah.
But then each one is a separate action. You can't
Exactly,
do
that's
it.
what I said. Effective
Oh,
beyond
it's
that.
good like this though.
I think we should keep it like that with effect over here. Going up, going down.
But we
Or
said
next to
last.
action, you put it next to the action and have two columns for each one. Action, effect, action.
But didn't we?
effect,
I
action.
guess didn't we say last
Whatever
time
works.
that the way to think about it fundamentally is that it's like grammar. Everything that we want to say has a subject, an action, and an
Yeah.
object. So, but this way we've lost that. Action is no longer a higher level category.
I know,
Now
but
it's-
that bothers me.
action should be subject, action,
It
object.
should be
Everything. Every
equal.
mitzvah and avera should be able to.
It should be, those categories are the primary
Universal.
categories. It should be equal. That's why I don't
That's
want
we lost
this.
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
no,
why-
I just have to think how to reconfigure
Why
this.
should they be equal?
Because
Because
those
those are
are the
the-
building blocks of.
Subject, object, the action on the object, and the effect of the action on the object. What have you achieved?
That's
Those are the
tool.
four fundamental
There's
categories.
a fifth, also the tool.
What?
You said they have to
Tool
be
we're gonna
linear.
use. So,
No, but that's part of the object and the
They
action.
may be what you start with.
Well, what tool is the instrument?
Well, over here there happens not to be one, but.
No, yeah.
Essentially,
By Shabbos I have I have 10 of them.
Right.
By Shabbos I have 10
But maybe-
categories, and
There may be the four primary categories, but who said that they have to be linear? Why can't we rearrange them for the sake of structure?
No, because they are linear. There are four different facets to Kriya Shema. The subject, the
But for the
Shema,
sake of
Shema,
structure.
and put one.
For
No,
the sake of
I
structure.
can't. Yeah, it has to be the way the mind orders it.
We
Forget
lost
the
that.
structure.
We lost that.
And I would rather have. I think you could find a way where you can have all of this in one thing.
So you
have to
still,
think about it.
we still want subject, object, action, and
Effect.
all in
Yeah,
red.
those are the four primary categories.
Yeah, so-
Now, just how to rearrange, because we now realize that on the object there are three different objects or texts. There are three things going on, each one having their own laws, which is interesting. Vayomer has different laws. What's the text for Vayomer? Because Vayomer is not Vayomer; it's really Yitzias Mitzrayim,
Why can't the why can't
and
you-
so on.
again,
So
if it's prime, in other words, you could start with those just to start with them because that's how your mind works. But once you're already progressed to the end of your thought process, you could rearrange it.
yeah,
You can rearrange it so that they're subcategories, but they still remain the primary category because
Yes.
you started with that.
Yeah.
But for the sake of structure, so that everything's structured nice and neat, you could end up like that, where action is a subcategory.
you have to think as we go on. We're gonna.
In other words, just because you're let's say you're already at an advanced stage like we are, you know that action and effect are primary categories.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter now. You can make them a subcategory for the sake of structure.
You could, but it's not right.
In other words, we're not starting anymore. We're already.
I don't want to do that.
finished.
It's not right because it's not. Because I want to tell you something. I want to tell you something. The human nature is, you don't want to back off what you did. It's an ego problem. We're habitual characters. We made this. We're going to stick to it no matter what happens. Can't do that. I'd rather try to do it and then see if I can do it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe this would be an option.
We don't. Human beings don't like change. This is the problem. We do not like change.
That's why this
So if you
is-
write it this way, you ain't gonna change it. Even though there's something staring you in the face, saying, "Don't do this to me." You say?
When you fill out all the halachas of all these subcategories, it's
Yeah.
going to be too much information for one board. Anyways. So,
No, that's okay.
yeah, but to
For who? For who?
For a board.
For the board.
For this board.
And for any board, and also for your,
That's
for
where
anybody
any
looking at it. It's just,
That's
it's
where
going
any
to
program
be
comes in.
too much.
We have another character here.
What anyways you'll have to do is you have to
This
make
is-
two charts. This is what you're gonna do. It's gonna be four charts.
No, listen. No. There's a solution for this.
Yeah, he's done.
No. It's called different views.
Right, different views.
It's one diagram, but different views. The first view is what's called the overview.
The overview.
And then what you do,
Then you send. Then you.
More detail.
then you click into the box
Right.
and bam, there's the
In the
intermediate
overview,
view.
so this is what you can do here, though. It's a little bit
So
of a
on.
switch.
That's how you do
In
it.
the overview, action is on top. Because you have Shema, you have the subject, the object, the three types, and the action. Then you're going to click down, okay, what about the central text? What about the parsha of Shema? Then action is going to switch underneath, and then you're going to know
Action is
subject,
not-
action. You're going to know the subject for the... First of all, maybe there's a different subject for the action. All the...
I don't know where you're going with this.
So what do you mean? It's one person.
Once you're going to click down into the central text, you want to know all the pratim of that mitzvah.
Where are you? I'm lost.
We have the overview of the top three, and there is subject, object, action, and effect are all subcategories. They're all written red on top.
Yeah.
Then we're going to click down. Okay, we're going to go about the essential text, the Parashas Shema. What are all the pratim of that? In this subcategory, now things are going to switch a little bit. We're going to want to know who the subject is for it. What is the object that you say exactly? What is the parsha? What is the text? What is the action? And all the details of that.
Then you'll show us contradictory.
Then it will go underneath. Then you're going to click down in the expansion. You'll get
Now
all
we're
those
getting
subcategories again.
No, it's not.
It's possible. Well, the subject may also be different between the central text and the extension. May or may not.
We don't know.
We don't know. So
Yeah.
all these categories have to be delineated for each subcategory.
So which is the most
Second
important
view,
category?
So it depends on which view. If you're looking at the overview, you'll have them all up on top.
No,
Once
no,
you're
no.
going to want to know the pratim of each
in
individual
this
mitzvah.
particular mitzvah, which is the most important category?
Which particular mitzvah? There's three of them.
Shema. No. In the mitzvah of Kriya Shema, which is the most important category?
Then you're looking at the overview, so then action is one of the most important categories.
No.
It is one of the most
No.
important.
Object is.
The
Object is.
The most? I mean, they're all on equal levels. They're all in red. They're on the
No,
second
no,
level
no,
there. I
no.
mean,
But the primary category in this whole business is the object or
because
the
there are
text.
three of them.
No, it's the text. What do you do with the text? That's the part. That's the mitzvah.
I mean, you
It's
have to say it.
No,
It's also-
Kriyas Shema.
Kriyas.
No.
Kriyas are
The
the
Rambam
action.
starts
No,
in
no,
the first
no,
level
no,
with
no,
Kriya,
don't get
right?
caught up
That's
because
the
Kriya
action.
comes
Action and
first.
object are both important.
No, listen,
Why is object more
listen,
important than
listen,
action?
listen,
Yeah,
listen,
I don't-
listen,
I'm listening.
Text is the central feature. What we do with the text, in what manner, how, those are all conditions. Okay? The second most important thing, okay, is the action, the performance. But ultimately speaking, it's the object itself. Take a sukkah. What's the most important aspect of the mitzvah? Sukkah. Then, okay, what do I do with the sukkah that's the key of the mitzvah? And the answer is yeshiva, or residence, or whatever, right? Dwelling.
What makes it
and so on.
more important? In what regard is it more important?
Because the mitzvah is the object going through a certain action. So those are the two primaries, the object and its action. Everything else is conditions, or it's a subject. Okay, who's got to do this? Fine. It's a subcategory. You know what I'm saying? Or when, how, where, and so on, you know?
So you're
But in
taking
the
away
end-
subject?
What?
Everybody's taking away subject?
I'll leave it there so far, you know? I'll leave it there and so on and so forth. But what we realize here now is that there are three different texts that we're dealing with. Each one seems to have their own halachas, you see. So the text is the most important aspect of the mitzvah. And then what do we do with these texts? And all the conditions, all the subcategories is about these three texts. And the halachas are different for each of the texts. So then what's the single most important idea of the whole thing? What text are we dealing with? The object. That's the most important thing. You know what I'm saying? And that's the major differentiation. The other differentiations are the conditions. So you could really rearrange this technically by having object and everything else is underneath object. That's probably the way to go. You know what I'm saying? That's probably the way to go. Is have object, then underneath the object, there are three types of objects.
Each
Three
one has an
different
action, a
texts.
subject,
Oh,
and
and then
an effect.
each one, exactly. Each one has the rest, because everything
It
shares
could be
that.
different, really. So that's
No,
basically that's what we said before, the three sets. That's
No,
exactly.
no, there would be one. No, no, no. It would be in one diagram. No specifics.
No, different
No,
views.
no,
Sets
it's
of views
not-
as well.
It would be in one diagram.
Different views.
But that's how you do it. You'd have the object, then you'd have the three different objects, and under that, you'd have the common categories of all three objects, and there you are. It's all neatly under one idea. You got that? Yes. That's, so we would rearrange.
I
Yeah,
mean, I'm not going to do it now because time limits.
because that's
Time
really,
period.
you know.
And
Okay, great. Right, we're actually up to Mishnah Gimel.
yes.
Rabbi, we need
Finished?
now.
Yeah, it's 27. I don't want to miss the Brochos. So.
Now we need what we need is
What's that?
we need holographic displays, three-dimensional holographic display, and gesture control.
That's
We just need a smart display, a smart board, you know.
If you had a three-dimensional holographic display, you can just like turn it around like